Howdy y'all, sorry it took me a while, but welcome. Kapla, welcome, howdy. How are you doing today? I'm so glad that you decided to join in for a non-Amori stream, I appreciate that. So yeah, last time we left off 2/3 of the way through the summer phase, the step 2 summer phase with Derek. We went and I can't remember what the first activity we did was, but the second activity we went and had a nice, touching moment with Elizabeth and see how she was feeling since, she had some, issues being adopted and having no father on Father's Day, given that she has 2 mothers and she's adopted, but she seems to have grown up with that. Grown out of that, and we had a fun sibling time with Derek, always the helpful boy that he is. So we have 2 more moments left in the step. So let me see what they are. Oh, we also had lemonade too. Yeah, we made lemonade with Cove. I forgot about that. Yes, we did that too last time. So yeah, we had the boat walk and the soiree next. So we're gonna do the boat walk and then we'll go do the soiree. I'm doing well. Thank you. It's always good to be alive. Okay, let me turn on the music, by the way, so y'all can hear. Okay. Also, let me put the chat in OBS so I can see it better this way. Okay. It was early morning, but the day was already buzzing with excitement. Your whole family was gathered together with all 5 Suarezes in the cozy living room. Today you were all making a trip to the boardwalk set park. It was a regular enough outing for the Derek family, but it would be your first time going. The boardwalk was a few hours away, and it was even further when setting out from Sunset Bird. That's why the adults decided on the meet up here at the Suarez's apartment instead of gathering at the boardwalk itself. It gave your moms a little break from driving, and everyone got their last chance to run for the bathroom. You'll be leaving very soon. While you waited for the trip to officially start, you sat on the couch with your hands in your lap. For a few minutes now, you tried to keep track of what the group gathered around the kitchen counter were up to. Elizabeth, your moms, and Mrs. Suarez were all busily making preparations for what you could tell. Meanwhile, Mr. Suarez had his hands full rounded up with his 2 youngest kids. It seems that they were taking an anti-shoe stance that morning, and in Nicolas's case, he needed to be talked into wearing a shirt too. On the cushion next to you, Derek was pumped for what the boardwalk had to offer. He was rambling a mile a minute about all the fun stuff he couldn't wait to show you. You were excited about it. You were nervous about how busy it might be. You were simply happy because Derek was happy. I'd imagine being excited to go to a boardwalk. Yeah. Bouncing your leg, you struggled to contain your energy. You were just as eager to experience everything he described. Now, I don't know if I've ever been to a boardwalk. I've been to a theme park, and I don't know if a boardwalk and a theme park are the same thing. I'd be scared to ride roller coasters if they had roller coasters on at a boardwalk. But the Ferris wheel would be fun, and seeing all the snacks and stuff like that, concession stands or whatever they're called. Okay, bouncing your leg, you struggled to contain your energy. You were just as eager to experience everything he described. I think I read that already. Oops. Your journey was also the first time your and Derek's families were doing a big activity together. You couldn't believe it originally when the adults went through with organizing the trip.
Let's go.
Kids, come join us in the kitchen. It's time to pack your treat bags.
Cool.
Cool. Sliding off the couch, you didn't have the faintest idea what Mr. Suarez meant, but you were summoned, so you followed Derek's lead. He's very short. So right now, I don't know if you know how our life works, so I'll explain it to you a little bit. Our life is like this slice of life, nostalgia, childhood memory type, I don't know, uh, I don't know. They have a specific name what they call it, but it's a visual novel that's supposed to. It starts off in elementary school, and then we get into middle school. I think we're in middle school right now. This is step 2, and then step 3 we go to high school, and then step 4 we are adults. And throughout that time, we can make memories with the primary love interest of the game. Well, not love interest, because you don't have to be romantically engaged. You could be platonically or not at all. You could just be, acquaintances and neighbors. Cove. Cove is the main bachelor, if I could use that word. But right now, we've already done a playthrough with Cove, where we started off as friends. Then at the very end, we started dating, and then we got married. Now we're with Derek, who is the boy that we meet when we're in middle school. Right now, we're in middle school right now. And we're gonna romance him as well. But yeah, he's like 13 right now, I think. But he's shorter than the other 13-year-olds. Like he's shorter than the other. He's short for his age too. Anyway. Yeah, it's like a slice of life, but it only takes place in the summertime. This game only has summer vacation as a period you can play in. The new game that they've released, which I've also played a demo of on this channel, the new game that is going to be released, which I've played a demo of on this channel, they have autumn, so you will actually be in school for that game. I wonder how that is if we can't play summer vacation, and I wonder if we'll have Christmas in that. I don't know. I think it's just autumn. You play in that game. Sliding off the couch, you had the faintest idea what Mrs. Suarez meant, but you were summoned and you also followed Derek's lead. He turned to say something over his shoulder. He guessed that line might have been confusing to a newcomer. The snack bags are what we do for larger trips. Me and my brothers, you and Elizabeth too. We get to fill a little plastic baggie with any sweets and stuff we want. It's supposed to be for eating during the hours-long drive, but no one really cares when we snack. It's just so we have something if we don't need it. I like that. It's really nice.
Same.
I think so too. It's great to have on hand. A permanent summer vacation will be very nice. As he reached the kitchen, Elizabeth breezed past you with your mom's, following a more relaxed pace. Derek raised a skeptical brow and pointed in her direction with his thumb. Doesn't she want a bag? Elizabeth stopped and spun around on her heel. Surprised, Derek pulled his hand back to his side. Elizabeth's lips curled into an all-too-pleased smirk.
What?
You heard Mrs. Suarez. She called for the kids to come. Girl, you are so annoying. You are a child. How old are you? You a teenager. Come on now. Ma shook her head at Elizabeth's taunting display. Your sister steps forward and she held up a zip bag that you had noticed before. I already got mine when we were getting things set up for the rest of you. Oops. Her baggie was full of dried fruits and chocolate chips. She teasingly dangled it in your face and then in Derek's. Uh-huh. Very mature, Elizabeth. You're not one of the kids at all. You snickered at her. You stuck out your tongue. You shook your head. You rolled your eyes. You just stared at Elizabeth. I would snicker. Elizabeth withdrew her treat bag. She watched you suspiciously while you composed yourself. It's nice to see you excited about snack time again. She snorted and gave you the most indignant stare. Ma leaned into Mom, trying to stifle her giggles. Everyone's gotta eat. After that, she left the kitchen and plopped down in your old spot on the couch. Your moms joined her, putting Elizabeth in the middle. Ma comfortingly patted Elizabeth's leg. Glancing back towards the kitchen, Jorge and Nicolas were finally dressed and they dashed ahead of you. They excitedly crowded around their mom's legs. Now, don't forget that bag actually has to be able to close for it to count. She began passing out the baggies to her two youngest, and then Mrs. Suarez turned to you and wrinkled. That's my one rule for the treat bags, but other than that, feel free to go crazy. Nicolas and Jorge took that as their cue to rush up to the counter line with taster options and started snuffing their bags. Mrs. Suarez handled you and Derek your own plastic baggies. Now that it was in your hand, you realized that it was the smallest zip bag size. There was no way that you're going to get a little bit of everything. From my experience, you can fit about 4 handfuls of stuff before it starts getting too tough to close. I'll have to strategize then. Thanks. The younger boys swiftly finished selecting their road trip treats. Jorge's bag closed easily, while Nicolas's was proving a challenge to squeeze shut. The plastic was ballooned out on the sides, entirely full of cookies and candy. His brows pinched as he struggled with the zip. To everyone's surprise, Nicolas got it to seal and proudly held the bag up for his mom's inspection. Impressed, she nodded. Don't forget to take a water bottle too. We don't want to lose anyone to dehydration today. The 2 boys held their prizes tightly and grabbed the water bottles off the edge of the counter on their way out of the kitchen. It was your turn now that the buffet and spread was at the buffet and the spread was delicious. Okay, let's see. Fruit gummy candies. If they have no gelatin in it, I would probably get that. I don't eat peanuts, almonds, or walnuts. I'm allergic to walnuts. Plain crackers. I don't like sunflower seeds. I don't like shortbread cookies. Sandwich cookies are nice. I don't really like mangoes. I don't like apples. I like dried cranberries though. Oh wait, hold on. Okay. Oh wait. Okay, I only have a little bit amount of choices. Okay, so we'll go with that. Okay. Enjoy. Humming happily, you ran your hand across the side of the plastic baggie. You were grateful for your haul and you proudly showed it to Derek. He gave you a thumbs up. I would as well. I've run out before we even. So it's just supposed to be like 3-hour drive or something like that. I don't know how long they said it was supposed to be. Like a couple hours long drive. The water bottle will be already gone halfway through the car ride. Variety is the spice of life. He closed his bag and you realized that it was completely full of a bunch of different things too. Chuckling, you gently poked the straight inside of his plastic bagging. Yes, it is. Derek leaned across the counter for the water bottles. He slid one over to you and to take and grabbed one for himself too. Okay, I'll close up the packs then. We can leave this out here for now. We don't have any more time to lose. Are we all ready? Several voices called back, answering yes. Mrs. Suarez raised an eyebrow and walked out of the kitchen. No one needs to go potty? No. I don't have to go potty. Anyone have questions before we go? She put her hands on her hips and glanced around the apartment. Mr. Suarez raised his hand just as he caught her eye. I'd like to know how we arrange the rides. There's room for the 5 in the back of our car, and room for 3 in the Whitlock car. There's room to switch who's bringing who if there's a want for it. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Elizabeth and Pascal are welcome to ride with us, so Derek can feel free to go with Pamela. And Nolani. I haven't had to read her name in a long time. Nolani, I think that's how it's supposed to be. Nicolas and Jorge are staying in our van, though. Frustrated, both smaller boys pouted at the exclusion. Jorge's jaw clenched as he crossed his arms. I'm not a baby. Why I gotta stay in the van? I'm not a baby. Nicolas, you still need to use a booster seat. We can't put that in their car. Mr. Suarez chuckled at Nicolas's anger grumbling as he passed by the kitchen, aiming to pick at the remaining snacks. Mr. Suarez sighed a tickled, but still long-suffering way. Dad and I need you there to keep awake for such a long drive. Can you two please keep us company on the car ride? Releasing a deep breath, Jorge nodded. He knew this wasn't the day his mom was going to relent. Nicolas, on the other hand, continued to pout. Okay, Mom. Well, what do you think, Lonnie? Either way is fine with me. It's up to the kids to decide which they prefer. I'll stick with mom's. She then curiously shifted her attention to you. The corner of her mouth pulled into a smirk because she knew that you and your friend were the ones the whole decision was for. Derek leaning close to you, cupping a hand to the side of his mouth, so only you could hear him. Pascal, what are you thinking? Yeah, he is. He is a short boy, even for 13. um, it makes sense for everyone to ride with their parents. I want to ride with the Swatters. Derek should ride with us if he's all right with that. What are you thinking? You won't sure what to say. I'd be the one to be like, what do you think? I'm not that assertive. He inched back and nervously scratched the side of his neck. His cheeks turned a darker shade of pink.
Well,
It'd be cool if you well, it'd be cool if you rode with me and my family. Then let's go with your idea. I was kind of hoping that he would ride with my family. But okay, we'll ride with his family. That's fine. Really? Cool.
let's go.
Okay, now that that's settled, we'll see you there.
Take care.
See you soon, sweetie.
Oh,
Oh, hold on. One last thing. Mrs. Swatters went over to your mom's and quickly went into some last minute advice on the directions. While you waited, you noticed out of the corner of your eye that Mrs. Swatters had moved on from nibbling at the snacks. Instead, you caught him passing Jorge and Nicolas an extra cookie each. Genuine cheer came back to both of their expressions. They were so thrilled about the secret cookies that their earlier bitterness about being baby was all sweetened out. And that was that. Snacks and drinks were set, no one needed to go party, and the rides were arranged. Directions were obtained, and it was finally time to get the trip started. The two families left the condo behind, chattering with eagerness for the day's activities. At the parking lot, the group split to get into their respective cars. You followed Derek into his parents' minivan. Buckling up, you settled in for the long haul. Here we go. Mrs. Swatters' minivan was a full house. Mrs. Swatters hopped behind the wheel with his wife sitting shotgun. She bent back to double check that Nicolas was fully strapped into the car seat behind her. Derek, of course, had to sit in the open seat in that second row. That left you and Jorge to take control of the way back. Mrs. Swatters' brow furrowed with frustration. Once again, it became a battle. The wiggling 6-year-old fought against her attempts to tighten the car seat's front straps. Come on, Nicolas, it's just a car seat. It's just a seatbelt, I mean. Once she succeeded, Mrs. Swatters brushed her hair that fell forward, behind her ear and turned to the rest of you with a lighter expression. Are we all ready? Yes. Yeah, Mom. Yep, all set.
very good.
She made sure Nicolas was secured one last time before getting herself situated properly. You heard the click of a seatbelt, and then Mrs. Swatters shifted to her attention to this time to the last row of seats. It's so nice to have you here, Pascal. Thanks for having me. Of course. All of us are happy for the added company. Now that everyone was settled in, the car rolled to life, and Mr. Swatters pulled onto the road. Out of habit, he reached over and clicked the CD player on. Upbeat children's music loudly filled the car. Squealing with excitement, Nicolas started kicking his feet to the beat of the song. Next to you, Jorge leaned an elbow on the car door and rested his chin in the palm of his hand. There was a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth as he settled in to stare out the window. You caught Derek's green-eyed gaze peeking at you from the space between the headrest and the backrest of the seat. You waved at him. Derek moved out of sight, but only to twist around in the seat to talk to you directly.
It's all good.
Thanks for coming with us on the drive. I can't wait for you to see the boardwalk. It's gonna be so fun. You only got as far as opening your mouth when Nicolas erupted into a stream of loud cheers. The young boy threw both of his arms in the air and Derek ducked in his seat, clearly embarrassed. Nicolas's outburst didn't surprise you one bit. A tiny chuckle escaped Derek as he slowly slid his gaze back over to you. Sorry about that, Pascal. The whole drive is probably gonna be this rowdy. I don't mind. That's why I want you to come with us. Why'd you say you want to come with your family? I thought you would have taken the opportunity to get away from your family one day. You joined the celebration, chatting about today's plan. You sang along to the music to entertain Nicolas. Oh, what's out the window? Look, you joked. You sat there quietly. Oh, he like you. He does like us. I kind of thought that. So usually what happens is that when we play the game with Cove, who's like the main face of this game, he has the light, like aqua marine hair. Uh, you get to determine your relationship with Cove. So for example, if you're both, you can have it where it's like, let me see, uninterested. So both of you are uninterested. You can have it as fond, but both of you as friends. Crushing, or both of you are having a crush on each other, and then both of you are in love. I selected fond for Derek because he has a different slider than that one. He has a different one where it's just, I think it's fond and crush or something like that. I selected fond, but I feel like he has more than just a fondness for us. I feel like he has a crush very specifically on us, based on especially some other moments that we play with him. Like he clearly there's a crush going on. So I wonder if he just likes you no matter what you do. Because also I think, yeah, because when we played Cove, Derek was in that obviously, but to a lesser extent. And there was this cutscene, I think, in between the steps, where he said, "If none of us get married in the future, will you marry me?" or something like that. So I'm like, I think he always has a crush on you no matter what you do. Okay. Anyway, let's see. You were quite content to sit back and observe the brothers. Derek picked up a toy car and held it high, moving around like it was driving through the air. Nicolas watched curiously as Derek explained the toy's mission and why it was speedily trying to escape its rival. He held up a slightly bigger toy car for emphasis. The young boy gasped. It wasn't long before you were leaning forward in the edge of your seat. Nicolas wasn't the only one hanging onto every word. The cars raced around with sound effects included, but while it was a silly story, you found it compelling. Derek spun a fun tale of adventure, mistaken identities, and strangely also a bakery heist. Amusement brightened the grin of Derek's face every time he noted your growing interest. He spoke proudly, knowing that he was keeping not only his younger brother entertained, but you too. Later during the drive, Nicolas let out a gleeful squeal. You were confused at first at what managed to get the reaction out of him, but it soon became clear. Nicolas remembered he had an entire bag of snacks. He triumphantly pulled it out of his pocket and started munching away at all the tasted treats inside. For once, Jorge followed Nicolas's lead and relaxed into a chill snack time. Jorge munched away while watching the world pass out his window. Derek, on the other hand, simply rested back into his seat with his arms behind his head. You decided to have some snacks too. Yes. You ate everything you had. How long has it been? How long has it been? Would I have eaten everything at this point? Or would I have some? I'll do that. I'm the type of person that goes to a movie theater, and if we get popcorn at the movie theater, I'd basically be done with the. I've been trying to get better at that now. Recently, I've been able to save my popcorn, but during the advertisements, during the commercials that begin a movie, I'd basically be almost done with the first bucket of popcorn before the movie even starts. All it took was one look, and your stomach felt envious. You pulled your zip baggie out and worked your way through an entire thing before the ride's end. And you weren't the only one. After Nicolas had devoured every crumb and licked every bit of sugar from his fingers, he was ready to play again. And so the ride continued on the blasting beat of classic kindergarten tunes and with fun road trip games. I think it's not a I think the question not the question. I think the choice was asking if I'm going to eat all of them at this moment, not have I already eaten all of them before this point. I think that's what it was trying to say. So I think, yeah, I'm gonna eat all of them right now. I think the first choice was saying, okay, you're gonna eat some and then save the rest for later. I think that's what it was saying. Uh, and despite the trip supposedly taking hours, it didn't feel long until you noticed the first sign of your destination. With building anticipation, you caught the first flashes of the tall rides in the distance. Both families pulled into the parking lot and the kids excitedly bounced out of their cars. The parents cheerfully waved at each other as the groups closed the distance between them. When everyone regrouped, the families strolled onto the boardwalk. Your eyes widened. The place was even more amazing than you had imagined. Ooh, this looks very pretty. It was like you stepped into a bright world of color. There were shops displaying various beach towels and boogie boards decorated with either popular cartoon characters or tropical flowers. Clothing stores had racks of sundresses, cover-ups, and swimwear in every pattern imaginable. Ahead, you can make out the colorful tufts of stuffed animals from prize boards. So this is basically like an amusement park, basically. It's just on the beach. Dots, ring toss, skee ball, and more waited further down the boardwalk. Music filled the air, but when you listen closely, you can make out much more. So much more. There were various cheers and shouts of victory, joy, and fear. The screams had to be coming from the massive wooden roller coaster that towered beyond the stalls. Wooden? Why is the roller coaster wooden? Is that normal? Well, yeah, I guess it is normal. I have seen that actually. Going to, I've seen older amusement park roller coasters made of wood. They have these big roller coasters that have a bunch of frames, wooden beams making frames. But now they're all made of metal, I believe. Now, like entirely made of metal. From what you could tell already, the boardwalk was easily 5 times the scale of the entire shopping street in Sunset Bird. You loved it. You still preferred your own town's showside tourist trap. You suddenly felt uncomfortable. You were in good spirits. You didn't know what to think. I would say yes. I love it. I'll say I was in good spirits. Humming happily along to the tunes, you made sure not to lose track of your group as you moved through the crowd. Now that you were seeing it for yourself, you finally understood the intensity behind Derek's descriptions. The group began navigating down the wooden boards. Mrs. Suarez hastily grabbed on Nicolas's arm for safekeeping, and just in time too. The bustling mood of the area had Nicolas raring to go. He wanted to see, play, and explore every inch. Unfortunately, the four parents were just not as energetic as the hyper 6-year-old. With an affectionate shake of her head, Mrs. Suarez struggled to hold on to Nicolas's tiny hand as he attempted to sprint ahead. Irene, why not just let the children go?
What?
Will that be fine?
This child here and the rest of them, I'm sure they'd rather enjoy the park on their own at their own pace. They'd be safe with each other. She carefully weighed the scenarios in her mind while Nicolas was too busy trying to forcefully move her forward to notice the important conversation happening. Your mom shared a glance. I'd be alright as long as nobody left the boardwalk. It's large, but not too large. The kids are getting older, and they've earned a little more freedom from our all-seeing eyes. Okay, adults and kids are gonna have their own day at the boardwalk. You caught both Elizabeth and Derek perking up. This is clearly a sign of a perfect day ahead for the two. And then Mrs. Suarez passed Nicolas off to her husband for a moment. She motioned for the older kids to circle closer to her.
No more.
No more treats for Nicolas. He's had enough candy and cookies for the day. I'm counting on you to keep to that. Mrs. Suarez over there can't be trusted. Oops. He stood up straight and looked away from his wife, pretending that he had no idea what she was talking about. Her knowing smile cracked into a lighthearted laugh. Something bad feels like it's gonna happen. Yeah, there's no way we can just have a perfect fun day at the boardwalk. There's gonna be an incident, a controversy. You admired the way her eyes sparkled, teasing her husband. She moved her attention back to the rest of you, and both Jorge and Elizabeth gave her confident nods.
I'm on it.
We've got this, Mom. Derek answered with an added thumbs up. Mrs. Suarez proudly beamed, letting her gaze go between her boys. Derek's right. We got this. Oh, speaking of getting things, I have some money on hand for me and my brothers. Will you and Elizabeth be able to buy ride tickets and knickknacks or any of that sort of stuff? I doubt the pocket change I have is going to be enough for anything. I remember my wallet. Girl, how you not bring your wallet? Didn't you know that we were coming to this thing? Well, I've got a nickel. I didn't bring any money. You frowned wordlessly. I'll bring my wallet. I feel like in this case, I would definitely remember to bring my wallet. You confidently put your hands on your hips. Unimpressed, Elizabeth rolled her eyes. Good for you.
Don't worry about it.
Also, usually when I go to the music park, we usually have a day pass where you pay. Well, first of all, I never had to bring my own money and pay for rides by myself. I've always had my parents do that. And what we would do is that we would get a day pass to go to the park, and once we would go in, you know, we couldn't go back out, and we could ride as many rides as we wanted to. We obviously had to pay for like souvenirs and food and things like that, but for rides we could just ride as many times as we want to, as long as we had the day pass. I've never heard of getting individual tickets. Is that normal? Don't worry about it. We're gonna spend money on you two today. And wait, don't worry about it. We're gonna spend money on you two today anyway, so there's no harm if we let you have it. Besides, don't go on. We don't get to go on trips like this every day. Go a little wild. Exactly. We want you to be able to do things here. Mom dug into her purse and then she pulled out a handful of bills. She carefully counted $15 and handed it to Elizabeth. Your sister was unimpressed at that amount and recounted the bills herself. Mom handed you your own $15 next, and you quietly chuckled to yourself. You couldn't help but think about how it probably would have been a 20 if Mr. Holden was there. Yeah, you know what? I don't know why Cove and Mr. Holden didn't come though. That would have been wonderful, but I guess not. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Moms. We're all set then. We'll meet again here at 8 p.m. in front of this first stall. Mrs. Suarez took her youngest arm and crouched down to his level. She brushed some stray hairs out of his face. Go stay with your brothers today. Be good for them. With an eager nod, Nicolas bolted over to Derek and clung onto his jeans. Derek laughed at the sudden weight and put his hands firmly on the younger boy's shoulders just in case he decided to run off. The two sets of parents disappeared into the crowd, moving towards the nearby stores. Standing on your tiptoes, you caught your moms waving goodbye one last time before they were completely out of sight. Elizabeth spun in a circle, spotting all the things she wanted to try. She must have deemed the boat walk to be cool because she was cheery about a second. Eventually her gaze returned to you and the Suarez brothers. It was clear that her daydreams crashed back to reality. Next to her, Jorge rocked to his tiptoes and then back down. Catching your eye, he stopped and nervously inched a bit closer to Derek. It must feel awkward for a little kid to have two new additions to what was usually a special family affair. You offered him a smile, but tried not to stare at him. You were so eager to get going already. The clock was ticking and you didn't want to miss a single activity. Derek awkwardly took a couple large steps forward. His strides were wobbly as Nicolas held onto him tighter, but Derek was ultimately unfazed. Okay, we should start the day right. The face painting stall is up here near the front. Face painting! Jorge brightened at the notion, and Nicolas shook Derek as hard as he could without shaking himself off. Derek's grin widened as he laughed at his brother's delight. Yeah, let's go. Face painting? Are you serious? Girl, face paint is fun. You think you're so mature for everything. Nicolas was too absorbed in the thoughts of paint to notice her attitude, but Jorge's joy vanished instantly. He could pinpoint the exact second Elizabeth remembered how much younger Derek's siblings were. Elizabeth uncrossed her arms, feeling a bit rotten. She cleared her throat and begrudgingly tried to pull back to her visible distaste. I don't need one, however. Of course, we can go over to that stall. Anyone who wants to do it should. That's great. Honestly, there's lots of time to do tons of things, so it's not a big deal if sometimes it isn't what you want to do, right? His green stare hardened. He directed the statement at both the youngest and oldest member of the crew. Elizabeth snorted, displeased that a kid like Derek was acting like he was in charge. I've never seen this face before. He's never made that face. Has he? He's been displeased, but I don't know if he's made this face. Derek went in his respectful guest mode, which is what Elizabeth usually saw of him in the neighborhood, yeah. Derek was entirely in his eldest brother role. He kept a stern stare on her for another moment before shifting to you. Are you alright with letting my brothers get their faces painted? You can too if you wanna. It's actually a lot of fun. I wanna get my face painted too, yeah. Woo, face painting. I don't mind going, but I don't wanna get painted either. You nodded. You simply shrugged in acceptance. Yeah, I want to. Nicolas victoriously bounced, knocking against Derek. You even caught a smile growing back on Jorge's face. Before anyone moved, Derek carefully removed Nicolas's hands from his pants and took a hold of the young boy's arm instead, like his mom had done before. I wonder if we'll be able to see the face paint. I don't know if they'll have new art for this, but I hope they do. I would love to see what they have. Derek cheerfully pointed ahead with his free hand. Let's go. Derek led the way for your group. You followed his line of sight to the row of shops and spotted a large, colorful umbrella. As you approached, you noticed two open chairs under the shade of that umbrella, one for the artist and the other for the person being painted. Next to it was a canvas posted with a collage of photos. The example showed off cheeks dotted with daisies, sparkled golden stars shooting over temples, peace signs, and a whole rainbow of butterflies. Skulls and spiders were options for kids who wanted to get their face painted and still look tough. Someone like Cove, you thought to yourself, chuckling. And why is it Cove here? Cove should be here. Of course, that was only a joke. You were positive that Cove would actually get a fish or a shell or a dolphin or something like that. You peeked at the painting tools in the mirror on the wheel counter. The artist appeared to be a teen just out of high school or maybe in college. Many of the stalls you passed had younger people running them. Interesting. The artist eyed your group carefully in return. Hello. Hi, welcome. I'm Xavier. Would you like me to paint your face today?
Definitely.
Xavier went over and plopped down on one of the chairs. Derek nudged Jorge towards the other. Do you want to go first? Jorge hesitated and chewed at his bottom lip, but he wasn't sure until he realized that no one else moved to take the open seat. He seized the opportunity and sat down. What can I do for you?
Okay.
I want a football, right here. Without missing a beat, Jorge pointed to his forehead. Elizabeth huffed quietly at the conversation, but Xavier gave a serious nod. I can do that, no problem. Artist slightly brushed Jorge's bangs aside and began to work. Next to you, Derek's brow furrowed intently as he studied the picture collage of options. What's up, Derek? But Derek continued to quietly mull things over. He pressed a hand to his chin and sighed. Nicolas will get what I want to get. I'm not sure what to get because of that. He doesn't like soccer as much as Jorge likes football, so that's probably not the best choice. I could get a car for obvious reasons, but Nicolas really loves rainbows. He does always have cars on his shirt. Just get the car. You can't lose with that. It's sweet that he loves rainbows. Let him have that one. You could get a spider. Nicolas can pretend it's real and scare people. Get a rainbow. Chuckling, Derek shook his head at your enthusiasm. He raised his hands in surrender. I'll get a rainbow. Oh, we do get to see it. Okay. That's so cute. Jorge's football didn't take long to finish. He got up with a delighted grin and tried to tip his head enough to see the paint without a mirror. He couldn't, but that didn't put a damper on his fun. One of his hands hovered around the football, and you knew that he was fighting the urge to poke at the wet paint. It's kind of like he has like a third eye. Like those third eyes that open. What is this? Horizontally, they're open horizontally? Yeah. Derek slid onto the customer chair next. Nicolas leaned his hands on the edge of the seat and intensely watched the artist get to work. As the paint took shape, the smile on Nicolas's face grew. He gasped loudly in amazement at the second he finally figured it out. The artist oh, look at that! It's so cute. The artist proudly added the finishing touches, but then addressed the youngest waters next. Xavier twirled their paintbrush. Now, what do you think? It's awesome! Just what I like to hear. You're good to go then.
Thanks.
Derek took one last glance at himself in the mirror and hopped off the chair. He pointed at the open seat with his thumb. Your turn, Nico. Nicolas clambered onto the chair with a pinched brow. Once he got settled, he sat up tall like a big boy. Hello, what can I do for you today? A rainbow! Xavier's gaze instinctively went back to the piece they just finished on Derek. They immediately put together what was happening. That's a great idea. Let's get started. Nicolas nodded and put all of his mental energy into holding steel. You weren't sure how long the 6-year-old could keep that up before he started to squirm. While it was fun to watch Nicolas, you knew that your focus was better spent deciding what design you were actually getting. You were next, so you gave the canvas another look. You picked out the football, soccer ball, basketball, butterfly, heart, shooting star, rainbow, sun, smiley face, car, skull, spider, peace sign, alien face, cheek whiskers, and a painted nose. Oh, that would be cute, yes! Cheek whiskers and a painted nose. Oh, I'm so sad that we don't have a sprite. I want to see what that looks like on us. Again, Xavier made quick work painting, and Nicolas was soon jumping out of his chair with a brand new rainbow adorning his cheek. He walked over and took his place in the chair. Can I get one too? Of course. The three brothers huddled together out off to the side, proudly admiring and showing off each other's face paintings. Elizabeth crossed her arms while you in the chair next. Elizabeth, come on and just get some. You don't have to be like this. She went quietly hanging around the stall, attempting not to be too impatient. You were the last one to go. I can start when you're ready. Right. You shifted your attention away from the group and instead stared directly into the artist's face. You liked their pink hair. It was pulled back and tucked under a uniform hat, and from this distance you realized that their eyes were more purplish than the brown color they looked when farther away. So, what can I do for you? Can you paint me cheek whiskers and a painted nose? I can work with that. The artist dipped a clean brush into the air, starting color. Wait, I didn't read that right. The artist dipped a clean brush into their starting color, and then they reached forward to begin drawing on your cheek. The paint felt cooler than you imagined. Try not to move too much. The bristles lightly tickled as they glided across your skin. Stroke by stroke, Xavier started with the outer lines and then filled in the center of the drawing. And before you knew it, it was over. You eagerly checked yourself in the mirror on the counter and beamed. Thank you so much. You're welcome. You got up and rejoined the others. There was a delighted pep in your step as you pointed to the final result. Elizabeth let out a strangled laugh. You were really testing her attempt not to mock the whole face painting thing. Derek brushed her off. That's a good one. Now that you and the Swatters brothers were happy with all your face painting, it was time to discover the next activity. Derek quickly paid for him and his brothers. You dug out some of your own money too, and it was time to go. Have a good day. You too, Xavier. Your group gave one final round of thank yous to Xavier before moving on from the stall. The flow of the crowd brought you all drifting down to the boat walk. As you traveled further in, you actually spotted your parents. The Swatters boys jumped and waved, and their dad did exactly the same thing across the way. Next to him, Mrs. Swatters tried hiding her ear-to-ear grin with her hands. Your moms had their heads close together, laughing at Mr. Swatters' reaction. You shouted, you jumped and shouted, you jumped and waved, you waved quietly, you shouted the outburst. Hi! Throwing your hands in the air, you waved them like crazy as you bounced in place. Elizabeth sidestepped away from the group, not wanting to be associated with this undignified behavior. Moss followed you right away and pointed Mom in your direction. They joyously waved back to you and Elizabeth. Then your parents continued on with their own adventure. Your groups traveled further down the boardwalk. You browsed the long row of shops, pointing out all the interesting things on sale. As the afternoon stretched on, your gang continued to enjoy the boardwalk. Elizabeth took long strides and led the pack, cutting her way through the crowd. Everyone was willing to follow her. The Swatters brothers were giving her some leeway since it was her first time here, and you were used to your older sister's attitude. She was making a beeline for the roller coaster, the singular big kid ride of the boardwalk, and nothing was going to stand in her way. You kept up with Elizabeth and walked alongside her. You hung back with Derek, Jorge, and Nicolas. I'm a fast walker. So, let me say this. She acted like she didn't even see you. The only thing in her eyes were the tracks curving high above your heads. Nicholas had stopped holding on to Derek, instead flitting around on his own. Derek continued to keep a sharp eye on him. He occasionally pursed his lips when Nicholas was on the cusp of wandering further away than safety allowed. You frequently craned your head around so you could watch the little boy as well. The hottest decision of the game. Yeah. Such nerve-wracking decision that we had to make. He eventually started to lag, unable to keep up with Elizabeth's breakneck pace. Nicholas tottered at the end of the group, slowing his pace, falling behind, then bursting forward to catch back up. That happened on repeat. His eyelids drooped and his head bobbed forward. There was an expression of vacant determination on his face. It was a special kind of stubbornness only the youngest people in society could muster. The type where the concept of stopping was just not ignored. Wasn't just ignored. It flat out didn't exist in their minds. Luckily for Nicolas, he had a more self-aware big brother who could set limits for him. Hey, let's sit down for a second. What? It's a long walk, especially if you got small legs. So mean for you. That's right. I do need to take a break. Derek willingly accepted Elizabeth's shot at his stature. You could guess why pretty easily based on his leading tone. If Derek wanted to rest, Nicholas would want that too. Derek scanned the area and pointed out some tables in the distance. Elizabeth glanced at the path ahead once, but didn't argue about changing course. Derek could never catch a break about his height. She picked an empty table that looked to be the cleanest of the section. Everyone took a seat with the marked preference for sin under the shaded half. You grabbed a water bottle and took a long and refreshing drink. It remained relatively cool on your tongue. If it's summertime, I think that water bottle will be hot. Especially in that car. For how long? 3 hours? And then we were outside in the summer heat. I'm pretty sure it will be hot. I don't know. Maybe they have good air conditioning in that car. Derek hefted Nicolas up on his lap. His brother wiggled slightly until he found a comfortable position. Pascal has the right idea. It's water time. Nicolas gave no audible response. His eyes were completely closed. However, he did accept the water Derek placed in his hands. He sipped it sluggishly. Unfortunately, Nicolas tipped the water bottle upwards until it started to spill. Derek snatched the bottle back and chuckled. Nicolas opened his eyes slightly, barely perturbed by getting splashed. He rubbed his wet face on Derek's shirt and stayed resting against his chest. Excuse me? You think he wants to get wet? Derek patted his head. You have to admit, it was cute. Elizabeth and Jorge drank their water too, side-eyeing the scene, but not saying a word. You should drink, Derek. You followed Elizabeth's and Jorge's example and silently observed Nicolas. You kept to your own business. He swayed and Derek wrapped an arm around him before he could fall over. There was a noticeable difference between how hyper the kid had been earlier. Neither of his brothers were surprised by his drowsiness. Jorge finished his drink with a final chug. He inclined to head towards his two brothers. Nicolas is gonna fall asleep. Elizabeth twisted the cap back on her bottle. She was ready to go. What now? Nicolas let out a small snuffly noise. A snore. Derek looked down at his clearly sleeping little brother, but it was no issue for Derek. He brushed it off as easily as Elizabeth's insult. It's cool. I'll find her parents and they can look after Nico while he naps. Mom and Dad won't mind taking him along since he's down for the count. They're probably sitting in one of the restaurants or browsing a store or something. I mean, I kind of already knew that Nicolas was going to be he just should have been. I kind of understand why it would be bad if Nicolas, especially with how obsessed he is with Derek, his brother, it would be bad if he was separated from the rest of the kids. He'd probably feel left out. But I already knew something like this was gonna happen. Elizabeth nodded, glad it wouldn't be her problem. Jorge appeared more hesitant. He peeked at Elizabeth, and then back to you. Derek smiled reassuringly and continued to pitch his plan. Plus, Elizabeth wanted to ride the roller coaster. I would have had to sit back with Nicolas anyway, since he's too short for it. It just makes sense for you three to do that while I'm dropping off Nicolas. So go get that ride. I'll catch up later. Jorge sighed. He was being left behind thanks to Nicolas, but was placated enough to not argue with his older brother. Okay. You know how to accept the plan. Are you sure? I'll stay with you two so you two aren't alone. Can I go with you, please? We should all go find your parents together. Splitting up is a bad idea. If I was in the situation as a middle school Pascal, what would I say? I'd probably just be like, okay, like he knows what he's doing. That's how I'd respond, I think. It's the most natural for me. Okay. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. Thank you, Derek. Derek did a double take, trying to figure out if she was serious. He gave him a subtle nod. From your interpretation, Elizabeth didn't mean her thank you. It was just a perpetual lukewarm tone that made it come across as sarcastic. Derek's mouth twitched into a grateful smile at your Elizabeth interpretation services. Bye. He winked at you.
Talk to you later.
Derek. Now I'm winking at me. That is so funny. See you soon. Then Derek shifted Nicolas around so his kid was firmly dozing in his arms and hopped up from the bench. Nicolas didn't stir at all while you watched Derek shuffle away as speedily as he reasonably could, careful not to jostle his brother too much. They both disappeared into the hustle and bustle of the crowd. Nicolas really must be able to sleep anywhere. Jorge frowned when he lost sight of his brothers. He snuck another nervous glance at Elizabeth. Your sister's arms were folded across her chest, and her brows were pinched. While also typical for her, to Jorge, it probably appeared like she was incredibly annoyed. He said, folded across her chest, but her arms are folded across her torso. Like, isn't that like her midriff area? That's not her chest. That is inaccurate. Don't worry, this will be fun. You tried not to stare at Jorge. Come on, this is gonna be awesome. That's okay, she scares me too. You smiled welcomingly at Jorge. You got up from the table and prepared to leave. He slumped closer to you, more at ease around your friendliness than Elizabeth's unapproachability. It seemed as though playing Elizabeth smoother over. Playing Elizabeth smoother over. Okay, I understand. I'm confused. Might be a regular gig. All right, since you two decided to stay with me, I have the responsibility to make sure neither of you get lost. She placed her hands on her hips and scowled mostly at Jorge, but you weren't completely safe either. You better not run off. I'm riding that roller coaster. Okay, I hear you. You felt her posturing was mostly for Jorge's sake, but she had always enjoyed bossing you around. Good. With her authority recognized, she finally smiled, filled with the childish excitement you rarely saw from her anymore. Elizabeth bounced on her feet. But I changed my mind. It's alright to run off, just as long as it's right away, as it's the right way. Move it! She rushed ahead, and both of you and Jorge had to go from 0 to 100 to keep up with her. After the initial burst of speed, she decreased the pace gradually. She may have been in a hurry, but didn't actually want to ditch you. It was a fun chase across the boardwalk. All of you were speed walking as fast as possible. Given Elizabeth's haste, you soon reached the line for the roller coaster. It was long enough that you had more than enough time to catch your breath. Elizabeth raised her hand over her eyes as she looked up, trying to see the high track of the roller coaster despite the sun's glare. She was thrilled. I'm going to sit as close to the front as possible. Oh? She was surprised at the sudden eagerness. She approved. Then you can sit by me. Oh, they getting along now. Jorge smiled shyly and inspected the pavement below him. I'm gonna throw my hands in the air. Fine, I'll take the seat behind you. But what if I wanted to sit by my big sister? You joked. But what if I wanted to sit by Jorge? You joked. You chuckled at the exchange. But what if I wanted to sit by my big sister? That'll be too bad for you. The line plodded along with families and various teenage friend groups filing forward every time the roller coaster returned. It was a test of patience in the heat of the summer afternoon. Still, there was a grand reward at the other side. Eventually, the three of you reached the loading station. Elizabeth and Jorge rushed towards the front of the car as soon as the roller coaster attendant gave them a nod. They managed to get the seats only a couple rows from the top. You sat behind them and buckled in as Nicolas in his booster seat. An attendant went through each person, verifying that they were strapped in safely. I'm so... this is... Every time I go to an amusement park, I'm always so scared to ride the roller coasters. But then once I ride the roller coaster, my fear like goes away, and I kind of get in like a roller coaster high and want to ride the roller coasters now. Once I oh, that wasn't too bad. Like that feeling in my stomach, it wasn't too bad. I can do that again. But I don't know. I just saw someone who unfortunately passed away from a roller coaster accident. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't know. I just get scared that something bad's gonna happen every time I get on a roller coaster. So I don't know. I think I'm not gonna get on no more roller coasters in the future. But I don't know. I might. A roller coaster passed inspection and was cleared to go. It slowly started pulling uphill, heightening your anticipation. Up and up and up, the car crept forward. You gripped your handlebar, bracing for what should come. It went over the crest and then whooshed down the first hill. The wind rushed past you. It felt like falling. Screams filled the air, shrieks of joy, terror, and everything in between. The roller coaster curved around, went back up and then down again, racing through several smaller hills and valleys. The wooden track jostled you around so much it chattered your teeth in your head. You never knew what punch it would hit you with next. But too soon, you felt the momentum slow and your surroundings grew familiar. The coaster puttered to a stop back at the station. The safety bar was released, and your shaking hands lifted over your head. The skin in your face was tight and sensitive in the best way, tangling from the rush that had ended only moments ago. Elizabeth discreetly watched Jorge to make sure he didn't need help before standing up. The three of them followed the exit signs back to the boardwalk, energized expressions all around. Jorge skipped up beside you and Elizabeth. That was cool. Elizabeth nodded as she smoothed down her frizzed out hair. It wasn't bad. Her grin held more enthusiasm than you've seen from her all week. That was awesome. That was crazy. I've been on better. You nodded along happily. That was crazy. There have been so many twists and turns. The breakneck speeds had been exhilarating. As the adrenaline began to settle down, you realized that your group wasn't actually walking in any particular direction. Elizabeth paused and peered back and forth, raising herself to her tiptoes as she searched. No Derek. She narrowed her eyes, and her sly smile set off immediate alarm bells. Let's go get cotton candy. What? She coolly waved off her surprise. Well, Nicolas was the one who wasn't allowed to get any more treats, right? Do you see him anywhere? Or even Mr. Responsibility? We can do what we want now, and I want cotton candy. Unfair. Excuse me? No. What? Isn't that unfair? Life's not fair, kid. Besides, what they don't know won't kill them. Jorge blinked at her amazement. Her flat disregard of implied rules was enough to blow his mind. You wondered how childhood had been for Jorge growing up under Derek's rule, following an example rather than, well, Elizabethness. Both of you might have been the second children in your families, but you had very different older siblings paving the path ahead of you. Jorge seriously considered her proposal, thinking it through. Quietly, as if not wanting his words to spread beyond this group, he spoke. Can I have some? Yeah, you can. Or, yeah, you can. That's probably how it's supposed to be read. Her expression turned devious, pleased at her corrupting ways. She tilted her head towards you. Pascal? I'll nod. I'm not really a cotton candy person, but I'll have some if it's available, if I'm being offered. Elizabeth, I don't know. I just feel like it's so weird eating cotton candy. When you eat it, the sugar it just immediately melts in your mouth, and it just doesn't feel like you're eating anything. It just feels, I don't know. It's just weird, a weird texture. Elizabeth shrugged and walked over to a nearby stall. She selected a huge bag stuffed with 3 clouds of puffy pink cotton candy and paid for it out of her own pocket money. After she paid, she ripped open the bag and dug out the first cotton ball for Jorge. He accepted it, his eyes still wide. She handed you the next chunk. It was as light as air in your fingers, a bit sticky, and smelled sweetly vanillaed. Elizabeth took the last one for herself. She started tearing out the bite-sized tufts and placing them on her tongue. Jorge happily took a large bite directly from his lump. You began eating yours as well. It was light, fluffy, and dissolved in your mouth. It's delicious. Elizabeth hummed in agreement, continuing her treat. This worked out. For a time, everyone was content to enjoy the felonious treat in each other's company. The last bite was eventually eaten, and it was time to wipe off pink-stained fingers. Elizabeth wadded up the empty plastic bag and tried to dunk it into a nearby trash can. The plastic immediately unfolded from his ball with a crinkle, and she missed. Your sister sighed, snatched it off the ground, and placed the sagging bag into the trash can directly. There were no signs left of the extra activity, and Derek hadn't returned to catch Elizabeth in the act. Where was he? Yeah. Where was he? You expected the boardwalk for your friend's certain familiar form. Despite how much time had passed, he still wasn't back yet. We could try the roller coaster again. Jorge shook his head definitively. We should wait for Derek. He's got to be coming. Elizabeth sighed but led the group closer to the sign posted across the front of the coaster. You didn't join the line, but stood just under the massive advertisement to make yourselves easily noticeable. Here, there's no way he's gonna miss us now. With that, you settled in to wait for Derek's return. Goodness gracious, he's been gone all day? What? The sky turned golden as the sun began to disappear under the horizon. You glanced out to the sea, and it looked as if the ocean was swallowing the day. Lights began to click on, and the already shining buildings of the boardwalk were set aglow. In the waning light, two boys with matching rainbow face paint emerged from the shadows. You found Derek and an unexpected carry-on. Nicholas came back. I thought he was. So did he go to his parents and then stay with him while he was sleeping, and then waited for him to wake back up and come back? Well, that stinks. Elizabeth ran a hand through her still frizzed hair as she stared at the snoozing Nicolas. Jorge frowned in concern. Oh, did they not find the parents? Derek spotted you in the group, all headed towards each other. You met in the middle, near a restaurant with a mostly empty rack of rental bikes. Hey, everybody. He bashfully kicked a pebble by his foot. He also chuckled and shrugged as if to say, yeah, the plan didn't work out. Sorry for taking so long. There was sort of a problem. Nicolas released a particularly loud snort. Where are Mom and Dad? Jorge's arms were around his chest. Derek readjusted his grip sturdily, and you wondered how strong he was. It must have been getting pretty difficult to hold Nicolas at this point. Yeah, he's had to hold on to him all day, asleep. That dead weight, that must be heavy. They're fine. It's just that they promised to meet later is all. It's not like we've been abandoned. What does that mean? Did you go to your parents and then say, hey, we have Nicolas sleeping? And they're like, well, we're going to see each other in like a couple hours, so you might as well just hold on to him. Did they say that? Or is he just saying that, you know, we'll be able to find them? It's not like they've left the amusement park because it's supposed to be meeting up at 8 o'clock. I don't know. Which way is that supposed to be? Jorge let his hands hang loose at his sides, believing his brother. Before anyone could say anything else, Derek had a new idea to offer. I'm gonna hold on to Nicolas until it's time to go home. The rest of you guys can keep having fun. Go wherever you want. Jorge uncomfortably pulled at his shirt, stretching the fabric at its seams. I don't want to go. I want to help. He visibly felt bad about all of this being put on Derek. You got the impression that if Jorge was a little bigger, he would offer to take a turn holding the baby brother instead. No. It's okay. I'll be fine. You really shouldn't waste all your time staying around with me. Plus, then who would help Elizabeth and Pascal around the boardwalk? Well, I feel bad that you have to just sit here. They haven't been here before. You know this place. It can make sure they don't get lost or don't miss any good parts. Jorge turned to you and Elizabeth, but hesitated with his answer. It would help me to know that we didn't send them off alone. They're our guests, right? Okay. Thanks, Jorge. Derek leaned closer to Elizabeth and whispered. Okay. I don't want Jorge to miss out on the boardwalk because of Nicolas or because of me. Please take him and go have some fun. Derek and Elizabeth made eye contact, and for all you could figure, they had some sort of eldest sibling telepathy going on. That was the only way you could explain it, because rather than arguing, she agreed to work with Derek. I'll do it. Elizabeth pressed her lips together and considered you. She snorted and lightly flicked your nose. But I don't need Pascal with me. Jorge isn't a pain. Derek's eyebrows creased, not expecting that. I'll stay with Derek. I feel bad. Yeah, I'll stay with Derek. I can stay with Derek? Right, I'll handle Derek. I'll handle taking Derek out for some fun. You nod and agree with Elizabeth nudging. I'll stay with Derek. I thought so. Pascal. Derek's voice was strangled and hushed.
You don't have to.
But what about you? Why does it just have to be you? Why does it have to be just you? You could have suggested we take turns watching Nicolas. Derek shook his head and felt your stubbornness, and you felt your stubbornness spark.
It doesn't matter.
There's been a lot of moments in this. I've noticed like a very prominent theme of Derek having to grapple with being a child and being basically a second father to Nicolas. Like this has been going on in all these moments that we've played. It's fine. Someone's gotta be here for Nicolas, and it's easier if I do it. That's all. Well, now it's gonna be easier if we do it together.
Yeah, sure.
Jorge, show me something interesting. Let's be like, okay, y'all can sort that out. I want to go have some fun. I don't care about any of this stuff. Jorge gulped but nodded. His gaze bounced between Elizabeth and your standoff with Derek, and he wisely decided to take his leave. He led Elizabeth away, passing by assorted stalls. He seemed to have an idea of where he was going, so he figured he and your sister would probably have a good time. Derek shifted his weight from foot to foot, bouncing around like the floor was on fire. He got more panicked the further away your sister and his brother got without you. Pascal, you have to go. I found her parents. What? No, he did not. He's just saying this so we can go leave. He kept babbling and hot-footedly hopping both at a rapid pace. They rented bikes and were having a good time. I just couldn't ask them to take Nico. Maybe he's telling the truth. I don't know. Maybe that is true. I just couldn't ask them to take Nico. It's not your fault. It's all because of me. And you shouldn't have to miss out because of that. You have to go have fun. He was shocked to hear this revelation. He chose to keep Nicolas? Okay. But you shouldn't have been surprised. Of course he didn't stop his parents from having fun. That's exactly what Derek would do. And that was what Derek was trying to do now with you. Derek, you can't do this to yourself. You can't keep doing that. I'm still staying. When the other two were completely out of sight, Derek stopped his frantic movement, having spent all his excess nervous energy. He met his gaze head on, staring at the friend who simply couldn't help himself from being helpful. His face changed to some tense and small. You wondered how many times he did this, took all the responsibility so that others didn't have to be bothered. It didn't seem like he was called out on it much. Slowly he smiled. His grin was tender enough to be genuine. Well, then, if you're gonna be here anyways, we don't have to make ourselves miserable. It's you and me and, well, Nicolas time. Yeah.
All right.
He lifted Nicolas higher and stood tall, ready to take on the world. Then his knees buckled and he blushed. Can we sit down somewhere? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. After spending all that time searching high and low while carrying around his brother the whole time, Derek needed a break. You both dragged yourselves over to a nearby bench. It was thankfully empty and away from the crowd. Derek took the heavy seat and exhaled deeply. He kept Nicolas clutched close to his chest. It was a familiar motion, one that Derek must have done hundreds of times before. I get why Nicolas is so attached to you. Maybe you shouldn't take on everything yourself. You don't like getting help, do you? I admire how responsible you are. Your parents are so lucky to have you. This is... I don't know. Seems like the worst response you could give in this situation. You stay quiet. We've had this conversation already before, and he's like... He's not gonna change. I don't know. This just might just make him more agitated if I say this. I don't know. I don't know what I should say. Oh my god, he's crushing on you. He is. He's very much so. I get why Nicolas is so attached to you. I don't know, I'm just gonna say it. By that, I mean you can ask for help with Nicolas.
Maybe?
He appeared surprised at your observation and unsure how to respond. He sank in on himself, curling around Nicolas as he stared at the boards in front of him. He mumbled, soft enough you had to hold your breath to hear. I don't think it's such a bad thing. It's not inherently a bad thing, but it can be if it's done too much. You weren't sure what to make of that. He wasn't lying, but looked too sad for it to be the full truth. He didn't say any more about it. After you both had settled, Derek carefully reached into his pocket. He struggled to dig around to find what he was searching for. Aha! He pulled out his special snack bag in triumph. It was still completely full, untouched from this morning. How have you not eaten anything from that? Derek tried to pick out some morsels from the bag, but it was even harder to keep Nicolas from flopping over. Let me help. Derek flushed at your arm and became self-conscious over the fact that you noticed his difficulty.
Thanks.
Despite his embarrassment, he passed the snacks to you. You took the bag and he steadied his hold on Nicolas. Oh, I just need some granola chunks. You can leave the other stuff in there. Is that your favorite? Yeah, but no. He just squinted at him in confusion. He laughed cheekily, having expected your reaction. It's my favorite snack in the bag, but not the reason I want it. It's the other stuff isn't for me. Derek! Derek! Everything you do that is crazy. There's a Derek. There's a handful of cereal Nicolas secretly likes. That way you can have something that's not just candies and cookies. Derek. They had baggies. They literally had their own bags. I brought the walnuts for Jorge in case we were out too long and he got hungry and he dropped his gaze from you shyly. Did he get a snack from me too? That's crazy if he did. He dropped his gaze from you shyly.
Honestly.
Derek, you're so cute. You're so cute. The gummy candies are for you, you know. Maybe you get hungry too. You can't get mad at him. You can't. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be mad at you, but you're just too cute. You're just so wholesome. But still, Derek. Come on, Derek. That's for handfuls. You always think ahead. That's so nice of you. You shouldn't use your snack bag for other people. Stop doing everything for everyone else. And what if you need a more for yourself? You beamed at his consideration. You frowned at his admission. Okay, I'm not gonna yell at him. I'm just gonna say, and what if you needed more for yourself? Like, hello, you could get hungry too, can't you? Did you not think of that? He'd be starving while holding on to extra snacks for everyone else. What had he actually eaten today? You narrowed your eyes and tried to think back to if he had anything.
No worries.
It's nothing. Sweet Derek. He tried to reassure you and brush off your concern. To him, it wasn't a big deal. Do you want any gummy candies? You can take it. Sure, thank you. No, I don't want it. You should eat it. It's your special snack bag. You nodded and accepted. You shook your head and refused. I don't, this is hard. Do I? Cause this is what he does. He's just so considerate of other people. So I feel like I'm not gonna say no, I don't want it. You know, that's just rude, and that's not gonna make him feel good. So I don't know if I should just say thank you, like sure, thank you, or should I say you should eat it? Okay. All right, you can hand it over. Okay, so he accepted that easily. He chuckled and you fished out some granola and gummy candies. Derek held out his hand and you carefully dropped the snacks into his palm. Thanks. He popped one of the tiny oat clusters into his mouth and started chewing. Both of you leisurely enjoyed his time. Derek ate away at the granola, peppering the air with soft crunching noises. You quietly let him savor his food. The munch and the high-pitched snoring served as the only sounds between you for a while. You passed Derek the last cluster of granola. You had to really try to get it out of the bag around the cereal and walnut chunks. Ooh, wait a second. If I'd eaten that, if in real life, if I had eaten that, I might have gotten an allergic reaction from the walnut chunks. He accepted with great enthusiasm and then took its final bites. He swallowed and swallowed satisfied. He loves you. He does. He absentmindedly patted Nicolas's head as he peppered up and down the street. Something caught his eye and he lit up. You know, I was so focused before, I kind of forgot where we were. This is still the boardwalk. He was as excited as he had been towards the beginning of the day.
Let's go.
Want to walk around? There's a lot of interesting stuff here, even if we're only looking. Yeah, that sounds nice. Derek gave you a thumbs up and he at Nicolas. Can you help me move him? Can you help me move him to my back? That'll be easier for the long haul. You stood up to help. It took both of you fumbling around, but with effort you were able to get the little boy comfortably on Derek's back. Then you left the bench behind to explore the bustling waterfront park. Without curiously deciding to, you gravitated to the edge of the path closest to the sea. You studied the beautiful ocean, your breath almost taken away by how the water sparkled under the last flickers of sunlight. Excuse me. The evening remained pleasantly warm despite the encroaching darkness. Excuse me. Your skin felt taut under the face paint. The paint started to crack long after its exposure to the elements. Is it normal for Nicolas to fall asleep like this? Kind of. Sometimes something is so exciting that Nicolas bounces off the walls just by imagining it. By the time he actually gets there, he's already burned himself out. I'm pretty sure Nicolas didn't sleep at all last night because he knew today was going to be boardwalk day. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that sucks he's missing this. Will he be upset that he slept through the day when he wakes up? I used to do that when I was little. You nodded understandingly. Will he be upset? I promise he'll be alright. Nico isn't great at imagining what he might have done if things were different. He lives in the moment. So as long as he wakes up on his own, he won't be a grouchy monster. Just so you know, we got cotton candy out of the... I'm just a snitch. If I said like that. That's crazy. Just so you know, we got cotton candy after the roller coaster. Elizabeth might be a bad influence on Jorge. Your parents should give you a raise. I hope Jorge and Elizabeth are having a good time. I hope Nicolas is at least having good dreams. You stay quiet and continue to observe the sunset. I hope they're having a good time.
Yeah.
They definitely are. Jorge knows the fun places here. Walking down the boardwalk was peaceful. The conversation was easy with the occasional giggle. Other groups of people passed by. Couples, young friend groups, and families with children all bustled out. You caught slivers of conversations ranging from the mundane to the philosophical. Derek glanced at the faces around him and grinned to himself. Derek, it kind of feels like we're parents and this is our kid. He twists around to show you Nicholas with excitement, with amusement. You're right. Oh yeah, our next trip should be to the wedding chapel. Yeah, haha. I'm glad he's not actually my kid. Yeah, haha. Is that like a sarcastic laugh or is that a real laugh? Yeah. You you blushed, not sure how to respond. It would be nice if that was true. Yeah. Um. Derek's eyes widened at your shyness. It was contagious. He let out a nervous chuckle. You know, at least if we were like old. I am trying to backtrack. You couldn't help but snort over his awkward reversal. He brightened at your levity. As he led you down the boardwalk, you noticed a new skip in his step. Hey, I have an idea. Let's ride the Ferris wheel. We've officially given up on getting our parents, and even Nico can do that. Yeah, that'd be perfect. You're a genius. How high is it? Is it safe? You nodded excitedly. Yeah. Derek let out a whoop and turned round like it was a little happy dance. You laughed, charmed by his enthusiasm. You're gonna wake Nicholas if you keep that up. Even if I did, we'd drag him to the wheel anyways. That'll rock him back to sleep. You smirked. Derek had an answer for everything. You both eagerly made your way through the crowd to get in line for the one ride that was an option for you. Derek cautiously weaved past people, making sure that no one accidentally bumped into Nicholas on the way. The line was short. It didn't take long for you to start boarding the ride. You piled into the cabin, and Derek placed Nicholas on the corner of the metal bench. He sat next to them. Nicholas snuffled. They've used snuffled twice in this moment. I've never heard that. I've always heard sniffled. Is that the same as snuffled? Or is that something different? Nicholas snuffled when he was jostled but didn't wake. Derek wrapped his arm around him to secure him from falling forward. Nicholas unconsciously leaned his head over to rest on him. You rested on the bench across from them, eye to eye with Derek. It felt sturdy under you. Derek's grin widened and he tapped his toes together as he waited for the ride to start. And it did. The carriage car rocked forward. Slowly, you ascended into the sky. You could see the entire expanse of the boardwalk from the cabin. It was an amazing sight. From this height, the stalls and decorations looked like a magical land of toys. You glanced at Derek, curious if he was enjoying the view. The sun had continued to sink as the Ferris wheel rose, and the light that reached inside the cabin through the little window was low. Sharp-edged shadows cut across Derek's body. He'd stopped shuffling his feet and switched to tapping a finger against the top of his knee in a jittery, uneven beat. As Nicholas was still sound asleep, it felt like you were alone with Derek. In the small space. And this music is crazy. In the small space, high in the air, with no one else anywhere around you, you made one more attempt to get Derek to be open with you. If you wouldn't do it now, then when would he? Hey, I still want to talk about what's been happening. You began to list your points of concern, and the whole thing sounded even more unreasonable when said in a single sentence. You got the face paint Nicholas wanted. You picked out snacks for other people, and you even gave her your own chance to have a fun day so our parents could go on a bike ride. Why don't you do things for yourself? He shrunk under the accusation like the walls were bending in on him. Well, it's not like I can't ever do things for me. I do sometimes. You weren't convinced, and spelt that out with the furrow of your brow and the tight line of your mouth. Derek acted the scolded child and hung his head in shame, but he felt compelled to fill an uncomfortable silence your reaction had left. It's easier to do things for other people than try to fight for something just for me, and that makes everything easier for other people too. You almost spoke out in his defense. to declare that he should stand up for what he needed, but he held it back. Derek was finally expressing himself, and he didn't want to interrupt. He rambled on, trying to sort out his thoughts and arrange the words in a way that made sense to both you and himself. I like thinking about the people I love. I really seriously do like doing the stuff that makes them happy. I don't want to have to stop doing any of that. Derek tightened his hands into his fists. His words were earnest, and he directed them straight towards you with unwavering eye contact. I mean it, even though it's annoying sometimes. Annoying for me and for whoever tries to stick with me. However, as true as it was, his resoluteness fizzled out almost immediately. Derek timidly sunk down in his seat. He brushed his little brother's bangs away from his closed eyes. It was a nervous, momentary distraction. Nicholas offered him some emotional support just by being there. When Derek spoke again, it was in a tiny voice. But maybe part of me is sort of hoping that instead of having to do more for myself and less for others, somebody would try to do things for me too. Then it'd be even. Oh, Derek! 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 Derek shifted shyly. His head was still low, but his gaze shifted up to you. It's kind of like a dream or something I've got. And if I'm not doing that for anyone else, how am I gonna find someone who'll do it for me? I can't ask for stuff that not even I want to give. Your eyebrows shot up, but the rest of your body froze in place. Derek turned his face towards the window. It wasn't enough to cover the way his cheeks had reddened. My family cares about me, obviously, but a lot of the time that's the thing I need help with. With a laugh, did Nicholas move? Yeah. Wait a second. How do I get rid of this? Wait, how do I get rid of this? There we go. Is he awake and just listening on this conversation? With a laugh, Derek liberally tossed the hair of his beloved Pain aside who laid there. Okay, so I guess he's just reacting in his sleep. The youngest brother remained blissfully unaware of the trouble he caused. The humor in his tone left Derek as quickly as it appeared. He couldn't get away from how serious the topic was or how much it truly meant to him. It'd be cool to have someone who was on my side and who liked me because of me. Not because they're family and they're supposed to love me. Yeah, that'd be sweet. For a single instant, his eyes met yours. But then he instantly focused on the world outside outside the scuffed, clouded window of the old Ferris wheel. You can see a lopsided grin reflected in the glass. Don't tell my bros I imagine some pretty dumb things. That's not dumb, Derek. Exactly, that's not dumb. That's normal and nice. I promise we'll stay just between us. You do have that. I'm here for you. I'm here for whenever you need it. I'm sure that dream will come true for you. You smiled reassuringly. It's not dumb. That's normal.
Thanks.
I wouldn't be too bold to say I'm that person at this moment. The foggy face you could make out in the window pane trembled. He wasn't ready to show it directly, but you were glad you still got a glimpse of it. He grasped the top of one knee and took it. He grasped the top of one knee and took in a deep breath through his nose. When he exhaled, he carefully laid out a few more words of consideration. Hey Pascal, is there somebody that you think? But he never placed the last part.
Forget it.
What do you mean forget it? No, say it. You just listen to this in the background. I have a nice voice. Thank you. Yeah, this is like a nice, low stakes audio. You can just listen to in the background. Like there's not really a big plot that you have to like stay tuned to. It's a nice, cozy story. You can ask me anything if you want to. No, you can't leave it there. You killing me, you joked. Wait, I want to know what you're going to say. It's alright. You can tell me later. You stared at him in confusion. Sorry, but don't worry about that. It was just this idea I've been kicking around, but I should probably think about it a little more. A lot more. Besides, Derek shrugged his arm and cocked his head down to an extra bit of company who was still gently snoring. It's kind of awkward to talk about all this personal stuff when my baby brother's right here, even if he is asleep. He chuckled good-naturedly, moving his hand to scratch behind his ear. Maybe I can try again later. I kind of feel like I know what he was about to say. The back of his foot knocked against the lower wall of the outcropping metal seat on repeat. It sounded the end of that conversation, but that didn't mean nothing else was on his mind. Derek was always considering something, and most of the time it was other people. The things someone else might have missed or forgotten weren't taken for granted by him. Oh my gosh, YouTube is telling me that my stream helped us pull. Hopefully it's not buffering too much. Goodness gracious. Why is this connection so bad? Okay. I'm gonna keep an eye on it to make sure that the stream doesn't turn off. Hold on, let me see. Look at the playback so I can see. Okay. Everything seems like it's still streaming right now. Thanks for helping with the snacks before. That piece of appreciation was given easily. The next door was Fa Mika.
Thanks for coming with me.
Oh, you're welcome, sweetie. You're welcome. It was nothing. Thanks for letting me come with you. Anytime, Derek. Give him a thumbs up. It was nothing. This time, Derek shared his bright and bashful face directly with you. You could always count on him. That was a certainty. And Derek knew that that sentiment was mutual. You would look out for him whether he did it for himself or not, whether he asked you to or not, and whether he wanted you to or not. That was just as sure. Not much more was said before the ride came to its steady, inevitable end. You disembarked from the cabin with Nicolas securely in Derek's arms. He strode from the exit to the nearest stall to ask the employee what time it was. 8 p.m. was quickly approaching. We better go to the meetup place. Can you help me get Nico on my back again? How about I carry him now? No, let me take a turn with the kid. Yeah, I can do that. You nodded. Cool, thanks. You held onto the small boy just long enough to prop him over Derek's shoulders. Derek hooked his elbows under his brother's legs and shimmied him into place. Nicolas draped heavily across his brother's back like a fluffy car pattern cape. Perfect! Together you wandered across the path. The people surrounding you were full of enthusiasm, bustling from ride to ride and store to store, but a quiet peace had settled between you and Derek. Your day at the boardwalk was finally coming to an end. The sky had gone completely dark by the time you reached the meeting spot, but the world around you was still awash with light. The street lamps bore down on you while spotlights shot upwards to illuminate the biggest rides. You and Derek huddled at the side of the path. You want to stay out of the way for other visitors who were trickling off to the parking lot and the ones who were rushing the opposite way for a last-minute excursion on the boardwalk. You hoped the strangers enjoyed themselves, but for you and Derek, plus the sleeping Nicolas, there was nowhere to go. At least, not until you caught sight of your currently missing family members.
I figured.
We beat them. I'm not surprised. Derek took the chance to settle Nicolas high on his back. He started to slip a bit during the long haul over. Since there were only 2 awake members of your group, you both wordlessly kept your eyes peeled. Every figure approaching in the distance was scrutinized, then disregarded as just another stranger. That process repeated a few minutes, but eventually the 2 shrouded forms come down the path stepped under a light, and you immediately recognized them. Jorge, Elizabeth! Derek popped up on his tiptoes to make himself taller in the crowd. He was still very conscious of the small boy he held. Oh, look at you, Elizabeth! I knew you wanted one. Come on now. I knew you wanted one. Yes, Elizabeth. I love that for you. When Derek's brother and your sister rejoined you in front of the stall, a wide grin crossed his face. Even he wasn't polite enough to ignore what was on hers. Elizabeth, what's that on your forehead? Oldest kid hadn't returned exactly the way you had left her. She now had a bright white golf ball emblazoned on her skin with non-toxic water-soluble paint. I like your new look. After a small huff, Elizabeth plainly laid out her case. Jorge and I talked a little about the sports we liked. When I told him I did golf, he suggested I get face paint of that. I did, and it was fun. Her chin was held high and she spoke with defiance. Elizabeth absolutely refused to be embarrassed by her change of mind. I didn't know what that was supposed to be. I thought that was supposed to be like a disco ball. I was like, is that a disco ball? Was that the moon? I'm so confused, but it's a golf ball. I see. Jorge stood at your sister's side and proudly took credit for the accomplishment. Jorge! Oh my gosh! She didn't want to do it before because she was just being a Lizard brat. Huh?
Nice try.
What is going on? Better than being a Borge. Jorge and Elizabeth chuckled at the quips. Apparently they had unique nicknames for one another now. It left Derek nearly speechless.
Wow.
The way that they are bonded together over this is crazy. That's so cute though. Clearly you and Derek weren't the only ones who went through a bonding experience this evening. I'm glad you had fun. I'm glad you had fun. I feel like I'm being replaced, you joke. That's so cute, Elizabeth. It's sweet you're getting along. You smiled in relief that everything went well. You could easily imagine your sister being unable to mesh with a kid like Jorge, but that fear had been fully unfounded. Jorge is kind of like he's a chill, mature child. He's a good one. Your sister then exhaled calmly and followed it with a sage nod. I'll take Nicolas now. Oh? Whether Derek was going to agree or disagree with the offer, you didn't know, but Elizabeth didn't give him the chance. She wasn't suggesting what he thought she was. We got like 10 or 15 minutes left. 2 of you should use it.
What?
You want us to leave him with you? Uh-huh. Derek took a hesitant step back and turned his face away. His expression tensed the same way it had when he first realized Nicolas was going to be asleep for the rest of the trip. Nicolas is going to be mad if I'm not there. The resistance was a weak mumble, and his middle brother spoke with much more boldness. Nicolas isn't going to know, and if he doesn't, and what he doesn't know won't kill him. Okay, you take it after Elizabeth for real. Jorge. Derek was at a loss on where that had come from. He had missed Elizabeth's little life lesson from earlier. Elizabeth, this is crazy. Derek, let's go for it. Come on, Boric, live a little. I don't know. You two are my heroes. We gotta go, Derek. Will there be any time for that before our parents get here? Will there really be time for that before our parents get here? You sounded worried. Yeah, like this is... What can we do in 10 to 15 minutes? Elizabeth pressed a hand over the golf ball on her forehead. She groaned loud enough that she could have She could have convinced someone passing by she had a massive migraine. But none of that was the actual source of her strain. You're both menaces of socially polite behavior, and you need to be stopped. Go have fun for Pete's sake. I'm doing well today, Okapi Flower. How are you today? I hope you've had a wonderful day today. Yeah, hurry. You have to do stuff at the boardwalk while we're at the boardwalk. He shyly scuffled a sneaker on the ground with a doe-eyed expression that was more expected from Nicolas. It was excitingly rare for anyone to tell Derek what the plan was. He was used to coming up with all the ideas and taking charge. Derek glanced at you. It was impossible not to smile at him.
Alright.
I'll do it. Me too. Finally. There was a quick passing of the buck as Elizabeth took Nicolas into her hands. She carefully positioned his head against her shoulder and cradled his legs under her forearms. Derek found the hold satisfactory and entrusted his younger brother to her the same way he'd let her borrow the responsibility of watching out for Jorge. No more time was wasted. You shot off down the boardwalk one more time. The flow of traffic had shifted even more from when you started waiting, with everyone except for you moving towards the exit. You pushed against the tide into the heart of the park. Your feet and heart were beating hard. Derek shouted over the sound in a breathless, thrilled voice. The lines are going to be short this late, but I don't think we can do two. Which one do you want to do? Or we don't have to go on a ride at all. Would you be up for riding the Ferris wheel again? Let's hit the roller coaster. How about we get a treat? I want to do what you want to do. I want a treat. I mean, this is kind of like probably the answer I should choose, but I'd like, how about we get something to eat? Nicolas isn't here, and your mom didn't say that we aren't allowed to get, that we aren't allowed most snacks.
That's really bad.
Oh yeah, Pascal? His grin curved mischievously. Well, if we're being less responsible and doing stuff just for us, that does sound like the way to do it. Secret treats it is. Not knowing that I've had a secret treat with Jorge and Elizabeth already. You rushed up to the ordering window of a nearby stall, having to catch yourself on the edge to avoid completely crashing into it, or into Derek. He had his own near disaster stopping right next to you. The poor employee had to wait for you to finish laughing before they were able to get an order out of you. Finally, you calmed your giggles and got an ice cream cone, churros, funnel cake, caramel apple, a bag of popcorn, bag of cotton candy, hot chocolate. I'm not really a caramel person. I don't really eat caramel. A churro would sound so good though. I've never had a funnel cake. Funnel cakes always look so weird to me. I've had an elephant ear. I don't know if that's the same thing or they're related to each other. We've already had cotton candy. I'm not really a fan of that much. Hot chocolate. That's interesting to have at a summer boardwalk. You got hot chocolate. That's very interesting. How about a churro? Derek ordered ice cream for himself. He gave you a thumbs up with one hand as he passed a $5 bill over to the cashier with the other. I'll let you try mine if I can have some of yours. You laughed just a bit more as you paid for yourself. And just like that, your mom's money was gone, but in exchange you had delicious churros. Derek stared down at the creamy confection he selected. Speaking of churro, I would go to Costco all the time. Not all the time, but often when I was a little younger. I would go to a Costco with my parents often. And every time we would go, I'd always get a churro and I would get a churro and a smoothie. But then I started getting hot dogs before I became vegetarian. But the churros at Costco were so good. They were so delicious. And I have to go use the restroom. I'll be back. If you would excuse me right quick. I'm back. Derek stared down at the creamy confection he selected. I do kind of feel a little bad about this. I know my bros would want to be able to do this too if they could. But I do have some delicious ice cream to make myself feel better. Exactly. The two of you took a seat on a nearby bench and enjoyed your own illicit treats. Each took samples of the other. When you were finished, you dumped all the evidence in the trash can. Nicolas will never know. Derek stared at the sparkling stars beyond the glitz and glam of the boardwalk. There was a peace between you that hadn't been there at any other moment during your trip. His eyes had stolen the shine from the cosmos when he placed his gaze back on you. It was way too awkward to talk about this before with my little brother right there. But I just want to say I really like hanging out with you, Pascal. I love my brothers and parents a ton, and my other friends are great too, but when I have to pick someone to team up with, I think about you. I love how that rhymes, and that's so sweet. He shrugged his shoulders with a shy grin. Derek was someone you could count on for honesty, but sometimes it still surprised you what he was capable of. I think of you too. I'd partner with you anytime. You smiled back at him. You flushed and looked away. Thank you. I can get why you didn't admit that earlier, you joked. He was a wonderful boy. Getting the chance to spend some time with him. I guess it's supposed to be him, right? Getting the chance to spend some time with him. Truly just the two of you. Oh, no. Never mind. That's not. Getting the chance to spend some time with truly just the two of you was more than you could have hoped for. You owed Elizabeth one. Despite taking an entire extra jaunt around the boardwalk, you still had arrived at the entrance before your parents. However, there had been a shift in the group. Nicolas was awake. As soon as Derek noticed a small third figure standing by Elizabeth and Jorge, he started like he was hit by a bolt. He made a break for his siblings, and you were right behind him. The motion was not exactly subtle, and it caught the attention of the boy in question. He let out a shout when he saw your rapid approach. Well, technically it wasn't your arrival that had an impact. His catchphrase. Nicolas sprinted away from the meeting spot, not willing to wait a single second for the reunion. He crashed into Derek, wrapping his arms around his brother's thighs and sticking his head into the space between Derek's legs. How short is he? Okay, these sprites do not cohere with what this sentence is saying. Like, he has to be this height. Like, he must be down here to do that. I always thought it was so strange for Nicolas to be almost as tall as Derek. I'm like, y'all, like, how old is Nicolas supposed to be? He's supposed to be like, I don't know how old he's supposed to be, but given the fact that he falls asleep from being over stimulated at an amusement park, I don't know, he might be early elementary school, perhaps kindergarten, I don't know. So I guess it makes sense that this is not accurate. I guess they just have to have it so you can see his face because he would be so short. Oof. It was powerful enough to knock Derek off balance. He had to swing his arms around out to the side to stop his wobbling. Once he was sure he wasn't going to topple over, Derek bent down and scooped up his hanger on. Since seeing Derek carry Nicolas felt extremely familiar by this point, considering that it had been the case for the entire afternoon, but Derek wasn't sick of it yet. He could handle it for a little longer. Derek nudged his head towards the other members of your party, encouraging you to come. Together, you and Derek walked the rest of the way to the boardwalk entrance, while Nicolas clung onto Derek the whole way.
Welcome back.
Hey, The moment you were in whispering distance, you were greeted by a hush message from your own big sibling. Good job. She put a finger to her cheek and smirked. Derek slowly kneeled to let Nicolas get down. The little boy stood on his own 2 feet, but his 2 hands didn't detach. They only grasped the hem of Derek's jersey instead. While brushing his brother's messy hair, Derek glanced up at Nico's temporary babysitters. He stared at them questioningly. What happened? Was the obvious unspoken question. He's only been up for a few minutes. And he was really grumpy at first because you weren't there. But we got him talking about the dream adventure he had when he was sleeping to keep him busy, and that worked. It was really funny, and Nico had a good time too. Jorge beamed with pride at the success, and you noticed how much closer he stood to Elizabeth. Your own sister accepted his company just as welcomingly. They were their own partners in crime for today. I'm basically positive that after about 5 seconds, he stopped telling us his actual dreams. He was making it all up, but it was cute. That was how my sister used to be when she was younger, for real. She would say she had a dream and she would make stuff up on the spot that was not consistent with what we had before. She used to do it all the time. That's so cute. Derek blinked at the two as if he had witnessed a miracle. Kind of was, in a small way. He was able to pass the mantle responsibility, and everything turned out fine. However, Elizabeth and Jorge wouldn't be replacing Derek anytime soon, or likely ever. Nicolas had behaved for a bit, but now that his biggest brother was here, the young lad wanted to be taken care of. His gaze dropped to the ground as he pulled at the end of Derek's shirt. Derek, my tummy hurts. I want an ice cream. No ice cream, Nico. That's not gonna help your stomach. You can have some of my snacks. I saved you part of it. Derek's tone really sold the idea. It was full of appeal from the fact that it was his snacks. He could hype up a product better than any of the employees running games at the boardwalk. Nicolas brightened immediately, and he collapsed his own collar and leaned his head all the way back to look at his brother's face from where he stood against Derek's legs. He wasn't kept waiting long. Derek pulled the bag out of his pocket and shifted through the mix of walnuts and cereal to pick out the treat especially chosen for Nico. Once he collected a small handful, he passed it over to Nicolas, carefully dropping the round cereal puffs one by one. In Nicolas's tiny palm, the amount was almost overflowing. Nicolas gratefully received the offering. He shoved the whole thing into his face and ate directly out of his hand. It reminded you of feeding oats to a pony, except in this case, Nicolas was both the feeder and the fed. Derek nodded in satisfaction and rolled the bag over in his palm. Jorge, these are for you. He gathered the last wayward pieces of cereal and then offered the well-worn bag of nothing but walnuts to the middle child. It's been a really long day, and there's still the ride back. You should eat something. Jorge didn't want to argue with that. He gladly accepted his brother's thoughtful gesture. Jorge plucked out just one from the pack, the hardiest looking nut in the bunch, and took out a bite of it. His gaze shifted towards Elizabeth, or Liz the Brat, as Jorge knew her, as he swallowed his snack. Then he asked the question. Do you want any? Thanks. You know what? I would. Thanks. Elizabeth was the third person who took a turn of opening up a hand to receive a snack. Jorge shook a few of the nuts into a waiting palm. Derek, you and Pascal can have some too. Nicolas's fingers remained pushed against his mouth, but his distinct chomping stopped. He spoke muffled words filtered through a handful of half-crushed cereal. I can share too. He stuck his sticky palm up towards Derek's face instead of his own. The gesture had crumbs cascading down his shirt. Nico couldn't reach high enough to get all the way into his brother's mouth. Derek shook with giggles and poked Nicolas's wrist to nudge the pile of soggy cereal away. Oh, that is nasty. Ew. Oh, I see. Oh, ew. He had to take a second to breathe before he could explain himself. I've got some cereal right here. That'll be from you. Thanks, Nicholas. I'm gonna eat it. That logic seems sound to Nicholas, or maybe just seeing his brother smile made Nicholas smile too. Either way, he accepted that not taking more of the cereal counted as him sharing it. But he wasn't done. Nicholas turned around on a dime, arms still outstretched, and positioned his hand towards you. Amazingly, he wanted to share with people others. Amazingly, he wanted to share with someone other than Derek. You kiddos are all way too nice. You cooed at his sweetness. You smiled with false politeness. You had no idea how to react. You matched Derek and laughed. You cringed at how gross that snack is. Ooh. Would he know if I cringe? Okay, no, I can't do that openly. I can't do that. You knew he was trying to be nice, but it was just hilarious. Before Nicholas could start flinging bits of cereal at you in his eagerness to share, a warm voice boomed above the din of the busy boardwalk. Good evening, family and friends. It was Mr. Suarez, and not only him, he spotted all four of the parents weaving their way through the crowd. We're here. The sight of his mommy and daddy made Nicholas forget all about feeding you his pre-chewed snack. He smashed the remaining bits into his mouth so he could use both his hands to wave at his parents. Dad, Mom, Derek called back with equal excitement. The parents picked up the pace and came to gather around the children. Greetings were shared between adults and kids. Immediately, Mom noted the face paint that was now adorning your group. You all look wonderful, so creative. Nicholas forced himself to swallow the mouthful. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. He sucked in a huge breath, pointed to his cheek, and cheered. Rainbow!
That's good.
Why, you're right. It is a rainbow. It's beautiful, Nico. Nicholas giggled gleefully at the praise from the grown-ups. Mrs. Suarez then clasped her hands together and changed the topic. Well, everyone, I'm sorry you beat us here. Hopefully you weren't waiting too long.
This is gonna be great.
No, it was fine.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you waiting here for us. We were on a very lovely bike ride across the boardwalk.
Really?
You were out there pedaling on bikes? Mm-hmm. Elizabeth and Jorge's face of genuine surprise at the news helped to distract from the awkward, knowing glances you shared with Derek. Returning them was a real hassle. That's why we got here late. Definitely worth it, though. It was. And you children have a good day. Nicholas threw his hands in the air to answer with full force. Boy, you were asleep the whole time. Derek softly patted his littlest brother's head. His voice was much quieter and distinctly relieved. Yeah. You, Jorge, and Elizabeth nodded and offered your own points of agreement. It might not have gone as you had imagined, but none of you would have considered it a waste of time. It was an experience worth having. I'm sure you made the most of what you had, but we better get going. It is very late. Perhaps we should pick up dinner on the way home? Absolutely. It's been hours since we left, and Nicholas can always sleep in the car since we won't be home before bedtime in either way. All the kids, except for Nicholas, had their face go completely flat. And Elizabeth snorted. Mrs. Suarez didn't miss that instant reaction. She raised a brow. Derek straightened the bands of his wrists and broke the news to his mom. There was a glint of amusement in his eyes. Sorry, Mom. I don't think that's gonna happen. Nicholas remained oblivious to the discussion going on about him. He was leaping and bounding from board to board, completely refreshed. His mother frowned. It was obvious to her what had occurred. Mrs. Suarez was unflustered. He shed some dignified optimism. He'll be up to keep us company. We'll all be together. Those words reached the small ears of the youngest person here. Nicholas held on to Derek's abdomen, liking the sound of that promise. His older brother looked down at him warmly.
Good job, team.
Glad to have you back, Nico. And Jorge, you're such a reliable bro. He wrapped one arm around Nicolas and reached over to pull his other brother into a hug. Jorge welcomed and reciprocated the embrace. The Suarez trio snuggled together in a tight squeeze, and their flaking face paint rubbed off on each other. Your gaze wandered from the public display of affection and went to your older sister. Elizabeth was definitely not a hugger, but you whispered your own siblingly appreciation for her. Thanks for the help before. She gave a smug flip of her hair. Forget it. I owed you one after the grand stunt you pulled. Forget it. You owed me one after the grand stunt for me on Daddy Day. Oh, Elizabeth.
Let's go.
I love how she calls Father's Day Daddy Day. That's so crazy. That was all that needed to be said. Your completed party took their final steps on the boardwalk, headed straight towards the parking lot. Mr. Suarez was leading the pack. Mom, hey mom! Nicolas shouted and waved to get his mother's attention from behind while still using one hand to grip Derek. Guess what? Lisbeth carried me. She did? That's so considerate. Lisbeth. Lisbeth. Your moms were walking arm in arm, sharing hushed commentary with each other at distance from the group and tittering over what they heard. She only did it for a few minutes. It was nice of her to do that. You're so sweet, Lisbeth. You snickered along with your moms. I am. I feel that who carried Nicolas the most today should get the biggest say in what we have for dinner.
My thoughts exactly.
I second that. Sounds fair to me. Then we all agree. I guess that means Derek will be our dinner decider for tonight.
Maybe.
Maybe. I love Mom's voice actress. She does her so well. She's so fun to listen to. I have to hear that again.
Maybe.
Derek scratched at the rainbow on his cheek and chuckled airily. She shrugged without comment and simply continued to walk. His little brothers stayed at Derek's sides and they bumped along together. You strolled with Elizabeth while the parents surrounded the set of siblings at the front and from behind. Derek's hands were full with Nicolas and Jorge, but he snuck a fond glance over at you. None of his excitement had faded. The night was still young and bright, and you knew you would count on every person there. Despite being miles away from Sunset Bird, you felt right at home. And that is the end of the boardwalk moment. Wow, that was 2 hours long. So I think that we will come back and do the soiree to finish off the summer next week. I cannot wait to see how the soiree is gonna go this time. The soiree with Cove was so sweet last time, so I want to see how it's gonna be this time. And I can't wait to see how Derek is gonna be after, like when we move on to the next step. I'm so excited. So yeah, tomorrow, that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed seeing more of Derek's internal turmoil, if I could call it that. But yeah, tomorrow we will, well, not we, but I will be offline tomorrow and we'll come back. Let me make sure I say it. I just want to be very sure. And we'll come back on Friday to play Danganronpa Mauve to finish off the rest of the class trial. And yeah, that'll be it for the week. And we'll come back next Monday after that. So yeah, thank y'all very kindly for coming. Much obliged as always. And I hope to see y'all back later. Y'all come back now, you heard me? Have a good night. Thank you, you too, Kepler.